So this week we were testing absorbency. So previously we've been learning about materials and that different materials can make different objects and different objects have got different uses, and you can shape and mould and twist and bend some materials and not others. But we also know that metal can be soft and can be hard. So this is soft metal, this is hard metal. And we found out a lot about different materials. Last week we tested whether fabrics or materials, were waterproof. This week we're going to test if they're absorbent or not. We introduced the term of prediction this week. So we figured out as a class that prediction is when you are telling what might happen in the future, but using your understanding and your previous knowledge of how that might happen and why that might happen. So this week we are going to test absorbency. So we've got different materials here. They did have a table with the different materials down it, and then the middle column was a prediction column. They would just either tick or cross whether they think that material was absorbent or not. Most of them got it right, to be fair, because they've used the previous knowledge. They also knew that they had to have the same amount of water each, so it was a fair test. We use pipettes in school, but I don't have a pipette, so I'm just using a jug. They know that every single person's got the same amount of water, so they all get the same results, and they also know that they have to drop it in the same way, so it's on all the different materials, so it's a fair test and, well, a fair test. So we'll start off with dropping a couple of drops onto the tea towel, which the children knew that you use a tea towel to dry dishes and dry hands, so they know that was going to be absorbent. This one, for example, there was a layer on top, so it kind of made a little puddle on top of the fabric, and then it was absorbed slowly. That did happen to a couple of the different materials. So this one, they said that it was absorbent because nothing came through to the other side and it didn't just lie on top as well. Then we have cotton wool, so that again they knew that this was going to be absorbent because you put nail varnish remover on it and then you can take off nail varnish. So they thought that this was going to be absorbent as well, which they were correct in doing so. Some of them, they didn't pour on enough water, so it didn't really show, but some of them poured on too much water. So some of them poured the whole pipette, some of them just a little bit of pipette. Some of them did go through the other side, which did confuse them because I thought it was absorbent, which it still is. There was just too much water for the actual surface. Then we had tissue. Tissue was a confusing one because again, we know that when they dry their hands in school, they use the blue tissue to dry them. So they thought it was going to be absorbent. And in a way it is. But again, with the amount of water that we were putting on, it did drip down to the other side, just like it has here, which means that there was too much water for the surface. So it is absorbent, but only to a certain extent. Paper, they knew from the previous week where we were doing waterproof materials, paper was not going to absorb it, it's going to go straight the way through. Again, some of the children didn't put enough water on, so it just made a puddle on top and it didn't get absorbed. Well, just like this, to be fair. And then others it went through, others it did absorb slightly, but we did come out with the result that paper is not absorbent. Foil or metal. We came to the conclusion before the experiment that this was not going to be absorbent and it was waterproof. Again, from the previous experiment, it just lies on top, it doesn't go through. So this one is not absorbent, but it is waterproof. And then finally, this was the favourite one. This is cling film or plastic. Again, they knew this from the previous experiment of testing whether it was waterproof or not. And this one, they all knew that it was not going to be absorbent. It was waterproof. It just, again, made a layer of water on top, a puddle on top. So the test of this was to test what materials were absorbent and what were not. We did think about different things that you might need waterproof material for. The main one that they talked about was a towel for when you're drying yourself. And we talked about that was made out of fabric. So the kids love the experiment, both of them.